together. One of his creepiest traits is his ability to mimic human voices. He uses...
Hey, babe. Well, hello. Welcome to Zane Morgan Crafts. I know it's been a minute. I'm back. I'm here. I'm good. I know for a fact some of you, if not all of you, most of you, have dealt with a crafting lull. Like crafter's block. You have no desire to build anything. You don't know what you want to make. Well, that's exactly what I've been going through the last couple of weeks, ever since my last episode. I think it was a lot of different things just piling up on one another, but for the most part, a lot of it had to deal with seasonal depression. It's a real thing. That, unfortunately, moved into my crafting territory, which is usually my sanctuary, my happy space. And I had no drive, no desire. I just wanted to be a moody little person. And then I sat down to try and work on some of the plan builds I had for this channel and couldn't do it. I just stared at it. So then I was like, all right, I can make a diorama. I have all these great models just hanging around not being painted. Let's try and make a base or a diorama for one of these models that I have laying around. Well, Loot Studios, this is not sponsored, they had released a winter themed collection. It had my favorite creature. If you didn't know, now you know. My favorite creature is the Wendigo. Scares the crap out of me. And it is known to be a winter creature. Seasonal depression, winter, Wendigo, W's. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a base for this. Well, I have this model, it's printed out, so I thought perfect. So if you wanna see it up close and personal, here it is. It is a 75mm figure. Now, I normally don't make dioramas, and for me, this has been a great escape, is helping me. So if you like it, let me know. If you want to see how I built it, let's go. So I ultimately started with a 5x5 XPS foam base, and I knew I wanted to create like a little outcrop for the Wendigo to sit on. So I decided to take my scrap material and just build up a little rock cliff area. And for this, I decided to use the different attachment on my hot knife tool, and it was a little tricky to work with, but ultimately it worked really well. And this just helped me carve out a kind of natural rock shape. When I was done with that, I took some dollar store wall spackle and just kind of hid the gaps, added some rocky texture to the foam. This was my way of avoiding using the tin foil. You could do it any sort of way, but this way is kind of a kill two birds with one stone sort of thing, so it's a win-win. Next, I took my classic Mod Podge, and if you didn't know, I actually took some black 3.0 paint and mixed it into the Mod Podge, so when it dries, it gets this nice dark matte black color. Next, I went in with some burnt umber. Then I went in with a real brown. Same technique, just a little heavier. Then I went in with a gray, and there's still some brown on the brush, and it made this cool color. And then after hitting it with the hairdryer, I went in with some Agrax Earthshade, put that on to get in, add some richness. Then I took that black 3.0 and painted where I wanted water to be, because I wanted it to be an outcrop looking over like a frozen lake. After that was dry, I took some scrap foam, which I should have cut down the size, but it's fine. Now I used UV resin, and in this case it actually helped reduce the dry time. So like if you were to use a Virotex, it would have taken like a day for it to work. And I don't have time for that. I also don't have any Envirotex on hand, and I'm dubbing this as No Spend November. So I'm trying to use everything that I actually have without spending any money on the craft. I took a technique used from GeekGamingScenics. So thank you, Luke. And that is taking some resin and taking some white paint and mixing that into the top layer. And that gives it a nice swirled ice effect. And then once that was all good and cured, took some Mod Podge, put it down, and then sprinkled some dirt on top. And this step isn't really necessary because I ended up covering it up with snow flock, but it just adds some realism. I then took some dry vines, I took some Woodland SCENICS undergrowth, glued that in, trimmed it up. And then I took some cheap Christmas Village trees, put some flock on them, and glued them in. I wanted it to look like the Wendigo was coming out of some woods and overlooking this lake. Once that was in, I decided to put down the snow flock. GreenStuffWorld actually sells a snow flock, which I think looks great. You could of course use some baking soda, whatever you want to use. But for me, I had this laying around and it actually has like sparkles in it. So at different angles it catches the sparkles and it looks like snow. So I also added Mod Podge and again, more of that snow flock to the trees. Now it was time to paint the model, and if you know me, you know I hate painting minis. I am not a mini painter. But anyways, Nova 3D reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try out their resin, and I said, hell yeah, let's do it. So they sent me this red wax-like resin, which was a little hard, honestly, to get to print at first, but once I dialed in my settings, the details on it were amazing. And I was really impressed. I really loved how it looked in this resin, but it wasn't gonna work as a orange Wendigo sitting on this base, so I decided to cover it up. So I took some black 3.0 as my base. Then I went over it with pretty much what I used for the rocks. So I used burnt umber, real brown. I think I used coffee bean and then a tan for the base of the Wendigo. And then I did the skull, some hands, the antlers in this tannish, I think it was a linen color. And then I just hit up the highlights with a titanium white. So when that was done, I just mounted it onto the base using some super glue. I added some blood in the snow and around the face just to give that creepy fresh kill kind of look. And that's it. It's done. Thank you so much. If you like this video, hit that like button, give me a sub, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.